hosted a lavish birthday celebration for my grandson. 300 guests, a ballroom decked out in royal blue. When I arrived, a security guard stepped in front of me. "Sorry, ma'am. This event is for close family only." I held a small wrapped gift and forced a smile. One quiet phone call was all it would take, though the hurt in that moment cut deeper than any argument. I watched guests stream past in sparkling outfits while Marcus, the guard, avoided my eyes. "Family only," he repeated. "I am family," I said calmly. "I'm Cedric's grandmother. I've been there since the day he was born." Marcus shifted, clearly uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, but you're not on the approved list." The instructions were very clear. Through the glass doors, I could see a castle-shaped bounce house. Elegant tables, balloons everywhere. My son Damon had spared no expense for Cedric's 7th birthday. "Please check with my son, Damon Caldwell," I urged. "I'll need to verify with Mrs. Caldwell," Marcus replied, reaching for his radio. Before he could speak, the sharp click of heels echoed across the marble. Joy appeared, flawless in a designer dress, perfectly styled hair. "Oh, Bernice," she said, her voice dripping with sugar. "What are you doing here?" "I came to celebrate Cedric's birthday," I answered softly, holding out the gift. Joy's smile tightened. "Didn't Damon tell you?" "We decided to keep it small this year. Just immediate family." I looked past her at the crowd of hundreds. Immediate family apparently didn't include me. "Please, I just want to wish Cedric a happy birthday," I said, my voice breaking. "He's busy with his friends," she replied smoothly. "Maybe next time we can arrange something more appropriate." The word echoed like a slap. I'd rocked Cedric to sleep as a baby, watched him when Joy wanted spa days, been there for every milestone, and now I was not appropriate. "Where's Damon?" I asked. "He's handling the party," she said lightly. Through the glass, I spotted Cedric laughing in his little suit, running between the tables, unaware his grandmother stood outside. My chest tightened with a loneliness I hadn't felt since my husband passed 5 years ago. "I'll just leave this for him," I said, offering the gift, a remote control helicopter I'd saved months to buy. "That's thoughtful," Joy said, but she didn't reach for it. "I'll make sure he gets it." The dismissal was clear. In minutes, I'd gone from beloved grandmother to unwelcome guest. I turned toward the parking lot, legs heavy. Behind me, Joy's cheerful voice welcomed others. "Come in. Cedric will be so excited to see you." I sat in my car, staring at the gift in my lap. 7 years old, and I was missing his birthday because someone decided I wasn't family enough. The hurt burned hot, but beneath it, something colder and stronger settled in. Joy had tried to push me aside before. This time she would learn I wasn't so easy to erase. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I needed. My finger hovered for a moment. Once I made this call, there was no turning back. The line rang twice before a calm voice answered. "First National Bank, this is Rebecca. How can I help you?" "Rebecca, this is Bernice Caldwell. I need to talk with you about my daughter-in-law's accounts." The party was still roaring when I hung up 20 minutes later. Through the windows, I could see the lights, the music, the laughter. 300 guests enjoying themselves while I sat alone in my car. But I wasn't powerless anymore. I started the engine and drove away, the small wrapped gift resting on the passenger seat. Cedric would get it soon enough. His mother, however, was about to face the consequences she'd earned. As I headed home, my mind kept circling back to the bigger question. When had I become the enemy in my own family? When did loving my grandson turn into a crime? The answer surfaced as I turned into my driveway. It started the day Joy realized I had money. 8 years ago, when Damon first introduced her, I thought she was wonderful, bright, ambitious, full of life. My son hadn't looked that happy since college. She worked as a dental receptionist and told me over coffee, "I just want to give Damon the life he deserves." He worked so hard, I believed her. When they married 6 months later, I was thrilled. I thought he'd found a true partner. The first request came during their honeymoon in Bali. Joy called, voice trembling. Their rental car had broken down and they needed money for repairs. $500 wasn't a fortune, and of course, I wanted their trip to be perfect. I wired the money without a second thought. Then came the apartment deposit, then furniture, then Joy's student loans that supposedly kept her awake at night. The doctor says stress can hurt fertility, she said, pressing a hand to her chest. We want to give you grandchildren so badly. That plea went straight to my heart. I paid off $23,000 of her loans without blinking. When Cedric was born, I assumed the requests would stop. But Joy explained that pregnancy had been costly and the medical bills were overwhelming. Another $12,000. For the baby's well-being, of course. After that, the pattern grew so slowly, I didn't see it for what it was. There was always a reason, always a crisis, and I was always the solution. Daycare was too expensive. Could I cover it just temporarily? 2 years later, I was still sending $800 a month. Their apartment was too small. Could I co-sign the mortgage so Cedric could have a yard? I did. When payments fell short, I covered the gap. When the roof leaked, when the car broke down, when Joy's mother needed medical treatment, I paid. It wasn't just the money. It was how she asked. The late night calls, the tears, the way she made me feel like I was the only person who could keep the family afloat. You're such a blessing, she'd say warmly. Cedric is lucky to have a grandmother who cares so much. After years of quiet retirement, it felt good to be needed, but the gratitude turned thin. The emergencies came faster and cost more. Joy began to change. Little remarks about how I spoiled Cedric, condescending smiles when I offered parenting advice. Things are different now, she'd say. Babysitting visits were reduced. We're setting better routines, she explained, while I watched her social media fill with nights out during the expensive daycare hours I was funding. About 6 months ago, I noticed her spending shoot up. Designer handbags, salon visits, an exclusive gym, art classes, even a luxury car. When I asked, she breezily said, Damon's doing so well at work. That was when I finally began to see the truth that had been there all along. I knew exactly what Damon earned. I'd even helped him negotiate the salary after his promotion. So when Joy's spending exploded, the numbers didn't make sense. I started asking quiet questions, careful not to sound suspicious, and what I uncovered chilled me. The money I'd been sending for Cedric's daycare, clothes and activities wasn't being used for any of it. Hidden in Joy's purse were receipts for spa treatments, designer shopping sprees, and extravagant dinners. Every luxury funded by the money I thought was keeping my grandson safe and happy. While I clipped coupons and stretched my retirement savings, she was living like royalty on my dime. The betrayal ran deeper than anything I'd felt before. I had trusted her with my heart, my finances, and my relationship with Cedric. She'd turned that trust into her personal bank account. That night I sat in my living room, staring at the unopened gift meant for my grandson, and something inside me shifted. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was furious. For 8 years I'd been played. Every tearful call, every supposed emergency, every crisis had been perfectly timed to pull money from a lonely widow who only wanted to be needed. I opened my laptop and checked my bank records. The truth was undeniable. More than $80,000 had left my accounts for Damon and Joy over the years. Money from my late husband's life insurance and my own careful savings. $80,000, and I hadn't even been allowed through the door to see my grandson. I picked up my phone and called the number I'd memorized. Rebecca, it's Bernice Caldwell again. I need to know exactly how much money has been transferred from my account to Joy Caldwell's personal account over the past year. As Rebecca read the figures, a cold, sharp sense of resolve settled over me. In just 1 year, I'd sent $32,000 for emergencies that never existed. Daycare fees, medical bills, school supplies. Every dollar had gone straight into Joy's private account. Then Rebecca's voice lowered. Mrs. Caldwell, I also ran a credit check. Your daughter-in-law has been using your financial history as a reference for large purchases. Luxury car loans, credit cards, even what looks like cosmetic procedures. Lenders approved her because she listed you as her primary financial support. The realization hit hard. This wasn't just manipulation, it was fraud. She'd been using my name and reputation to build a life of luxury that her own income could never sustain. The next morning, with my coffee in hand and a stack of bank statements beside me, I called the person I least wanted to confront. Damon Caldwell speaking. Damon, it's Mom. There was a pause, his voice careful. Hey, Mom. How are you? I'm calling about yesterday, about the party. Another pause. Look, Mom, I'm sorry about the confusion with the guest list. Joy was just trying to keep things manageable. 300 people is a lot to coordinate. Confusion? I said quietly. Damon, I wasn't confused. I was deliberately excluded from my grandson's birthday, and Mom, don't be dramatic. It wasn't personal. Then explain how your coworkers from 3 states away made the list, but your mother didn't. Silence. I could almost hear him scrambling for an excuse. Finally, he said, Joy thought it would be better to have a separate celebration with you. Something smaller, more intimate. I let the quiet stretch between us, the weight of what I knew pressing into every second. This conversation was only the beginning. I stared at the phone in my hand, my pulse steady now, my decision made. When? I asked quietly. When what? Damon sounded unsure. When is this smaller, more intimate celebration supposed to happen? Silence stretched between us. We both knew there was no second party. We'll figure something out, he said finally. Maybe next weekend. Damon, I need to ask you something, and I need an honest answer. How much do you think I've given you in joy in the past year? Mom, where's this coming from? Just answer the question. I don't know. A few thousand? You helped with some of Cedric's expenses, and we were grateful for that. A few thousand. I looked at the bank statements scattered across my kitchen table. Damon, I've given you $32,000 in the last 12 months alone. That's not possible. It's not only possible, it's documented. Every wire transfer, every check, every deposit. $32,000 for daycare bills that were already paid. For medical expenses covered by insurance. For school supplies that supposedly cost more than a car. Mom, I think you're confused. I'm not confused, I cut in, sharper than I meant. I'm not dramatic, and I'm not imagining things. Your wife has been stealing from me for years. Don't talk about Joy like that. Like what? Like a thief? Because that's what she is. She's been using the money I sent for Cedric to fund spa treatments, shopping sprees, a luxury lifestyle. While I've been eating generic cereal and clipping coupons, she's been living like royalty on my savings. You're being ridiculous. Am I? When was the last time you saw a receipt for Cedric's daycare? When was the last time you actually paid for his clothes or his activities? I'll tell you when. Never. Because I've been paying for all of it, and none of it went where you thought it did. I heard him take a long breath. Even if that's true, and I'm not saying it is, you gave that money voluntarily. Nobody forced you. The casual dismissal hit harder than any insult. You're right, I said coldly. Nobody forced me. I gave it because I love my grandson, but I didn't give it so your wife could get cosmetic procedures and drive a BMW. Mom, you're out of line. No, Damon. I'm finally seeing the line clearly, and your wife crossed it a long time ago. I hung up before he could respond. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from the fierce relief of someone who's finally done pretending that being used is the same as being loved. The party was still going on. Hundreds of guests celebrating a child whose grandmother had been told she wasn't family. I picked up the phone and dialed Rebecca's direct line. Rebecca, it's Bernice Caldwell. I need you to freeze every account connected to Joy Caldwell. Joint accounts, credit lines, anything tied to my financial history. Are you sure? That's a serious step. I'm sure. And flag her accounts for suspicious activity. Large withdrawals, unusual charges, anything that points to fraud. What about the account she shares with your son? I thought of Damon's indifference, his refusal to see the truth. Those too. If he isn't part of the solution, he's part of the problem. This will cause immediate issues, Rebecca warned. Credit cards will be declined. Loan payments will be rejected. Good. Maybe it's time they learned to live within their means. After hanging up, I sat in the quiet kitchen, the house filled with a stillness I hadn't felt in years. In one day, I'd gone from being the family's secret ATM to shutting off their financial lifeline. There would be angry calls, accusations, maybe worse. But for the first time in a long time, I was in control. I made one last call, using the number from the invitation. Fairmont Ballroom, this is Jessica. Jessica, this is Bernice Caldwell. There's a birthday party in your main ballroom right now, correct? Yes, ma'am. The Caldwell party. Are you calling about the event? I'm calling to let you know that the credit cards paying for that party are about to be declined. The accounts have been frozen due to suspected fraud. A pause. Ma'am, I'm not sure I understand. You will. Very soon a woman named Joy Caldwell will try to pay for that party, and her cards won't work. I just wanted to give you a heads up, should I be concerned about payment for the event. I thought of every dollar I'd unknowingly poured into this spectacle. No, don't worry about that. Just make sure she understands that actions have consequences. I ended the call and set the phone down. For the first time in years, I caught myself smiling. I leaned forward, keeping my voice calm. Those bills were being paid with money taken under false pretenses. That stops today. Damon rubbed a hand over his face, eyes fixed on the paperwork. You should have come to me first. I tried, I said evenly. Yesterday, I asked you how much I'd given you in a year. You guessed a few thousand. The truth is 32,000. That's not a misunderstanding, Damon. That's theft. He exhaled, a long, tired sound. Joy said it was all for Cedric, and you believed her, I replied. Look at the receipts. Designer handbags, spa packages, a down payment on a car. Not one invoice for daycare, not one for school supplies. Your son's name was just a convenient excuse. His jaw clenched. Even so, you can't just cut us off. We have obligations. You and Joy need to learn to live within your own means. My help was a gift, not an obligation, and it was abused. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Upstairs, I heard the faint sound of Cedric's laughter, a reminder of why I'd endured so much for so long. Damon finally lowered the folder. I don't know what to say. Say you'll protect your son, I told him quietly, because I will. But I won't bankroll lies anymore. He looked at me, conflicted, the weight of the evidence pressing down. Mom, I need time to process this. Take all the time you need, I said, standing. The accounts will stay frozen until I'm sure Cedric is safe and until every cent that can be recovered is returned. I walked toward the door, the house I'd helped them buy, suddenly feeling colder than winter air. Behind me, Damon called out, softer now. Mom, please don't disappear from his life. I turned just enough to meet his eyes. That's up to you, Damon. Make sure your son still knows his grandmother. Then I stepped into the evening, the weight of years of manipulation finally sliding off my shoulders. For the first time in a long time, I felt completely free. I met Patricia's steady gaze and took a long breath. I've thought about that, I said. Damon is an adult. He made his choices, and I can't keep protecting him from the truth. My first responsibility is to myself and to Cedric. Patricia nodded slowly. Then we move forward. I'll file for restitution and a restraining order to prevent any retaliation. We'll also petition for formal visitation rights with your grandson. The court will want proof of the fraud and of her interference with your relationship with Cedric. You've given me plenty of both. Her calm efficiency steadied me. For the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. What happens next? We notify the bank and credit agencies so they know your signature was misused. We'll prepare a civil suit for the financial damages, and we'll ask the court for a temporary order ensuring you have a regular contact with Cedric while the case proceeds. I thought of Joy's sneering promise, you'll never see him again. A chill passed through me, but it wasn't fear anymore. It was resolve. Let's do it, I said. Patricia gathered the documents into a neat stack. Once this is filed, Damon will have to decide where he stands. Be ready for that conversation. I am, I said quietly. I love my son, but I won't be blackmailed with my own grandson. Not anymore. When I left her office, the late afternoon sun was sharp and golden. I walked to my car feeling lighter than I had in years. For 8 long years, I'd been treated like a wallet with a heartbeat, believing that love meant endless giving. Now I understood that real love sometimes means drawing the line and standing behind it. As I started the engine, my phone buzzed with a message from Damon. Mom, can we talk tomorrow? Just you and me. I looked at the screen for a long moment, then typed a simple reply. Yes, but only if it's the truth this time. I set the phone down and pulled into traffic, a quiet strength settling over me. Whatever came next. Lawsuits, custody hearings, hard conversations. I was finally ready. I stayed quiet, letting Damon speak. His shoulders sagged as though the truth itself weighed him down. She said it was all for the family, he murmured. For appearances. So Cedric could have the best. He rubbed a hand across his forehead. I wanted to believe her. You wanted to believe a lot of things, I said gently. But wanting doesn't change what's real. He nodded, eyes fixed on the floor. The statements you showed me, they match what I found. Even worse, she's been opening new accounts without telling me. Cards I never signed for, all linked to your credit. My heart ached for him, but I kept my voice steady. This isn't just about money, Damon. She's been isolating me from Cedric, using him to keep me compliant. That's manipulation, and it's dangerous. He looked up, guilt and worry flickering in his face. I didn't see it. I should have. She's skilled at hiding things, I said. But now you know. What matters is what you do next. He swallowed hard. I need to protect Cedric. And you, he hesitated. What will happen with the lawyer? Patricia will keep moving forward, I replied. Joy needs to be held accountable. If she's willing to cooperate, we can avoid the worst of it, but that's her choice. He exhaled slowly, like a man finally deciding to face the storm. I'll talk to her. I'll make sure Cedric stays with me while this plays out. You deserve to see him. The words caught me off guard. Do you mean that? Yes. He met my eyes, voice firm for the first time in days. You're his grandmother. That doesn't change because of her lies. Relief and sadness washed through me all at once. Thank you, I said quietly. Damon stood, the weight of responsibility settling across his shoulders. I'm going to the house now. She needs to hear this from me. Be careful, I said. And remember, this isn't about revenge. It's about protecting Cedric and yourself. He gave a small, weary nod and walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned back. Mom, I'm sorry. For everything I said, for not listening sooner. I managed a faint smile. Just take care of my grandson. When the door closed behind him, the house felt still, but not lonely. For the first time in years, I sensed the shape of a future that belonged to me. Not to Joy's schemes, not to empty promises. It wouldn't be easy. Lawyers, courts, custody arrangements, all of that still lay ahead. But the spell was broken. I wasn't a silent checkbook anymore. I was a grandmother reclaiming her family and her life, one deliberate step at a time. I sprinkled the last of the chocolate chips into the bowl and handed Cedric the spoon. He stirred with fierce concentration, a little cloud of flour rising with every turn. Extra chips, Grandma, he said, grinning. Extra chips it is, I replied, watching the sunlight catch the tips of his hair. For the first time in years, the house felt completely at peace. While the cookies baked, Cedric told me about a new friend from school, about the science project they were planning, about the treehouse Damon promised to build. His words tumbled out in a cheerful rush, free of the tension that used to hover around him like a shadow. I thought of everything it had taken to get here, the late-night calls, the endless paperwork, the ugly court hearings. I'd walked through months of accusations and cold silences. I'd been called controlling, vindictive, jealous, every name Joy could throw to deflect the truth. But the records had spoken louder than her lies, and the court had listened. Now Cedric lived in a modest house with his father, surrounded by honesty instead of deception. Damon was rebuilding too, slowly, carefully, owning his part in what had happened. He never tried to excuse it anymore. Our weekly dinners had become a quiet ritual, a sign that trust could grow back when both sides chose it. When the oven timer chimed, Cedric bounced on his toes. Can I take the first one to Dad? Of course, I said, sliding the tray from the oven. The smell of warm chocolate filled the kitchen, rich and comforting. As he ran off with a cookie for his father, I wiped my hands on a towel and let myself breathe. The money had been returned, the legal ties severed, but those victories weren't what satisfied me most. What mattered was this simple moment, my grandson laughing in a kitchen, where he knew he was safe, where love wasn't a transaction. I poured 2 glasses of milk and carried them to the porch swing. The evening air soft and cool. For the first time in a very long time, I felt whole. Not because I'd won, but because I'd reclaimed the life that had always been mine. I sat on the park bench, watching Cedric pump his little legs and rise higher with each swing, the late sun glinting on his hair. "Higher, Grandma," he called, his laughter carrying across the playground. "Hold on tight," I said, giving him another push. His joy was pure and fearless, and it felt like the perfect reflection of what our lives had become. 6 months had passed since that day outside the birthday party. Damon and I were rebuilding, this time on honesty instead of excuses. Joy had faded into the background of court dates and supervised visits, her carefully crafted image replaced by the consequences of her choices. My savings were secure again. My rights as a grandmother were protected. But more than any legal victory, I'd regained something I didn't even realize I'd lost: my own self-respect. I thought about the women I'd met through the support group. Patricia and I started, mothers and grandmothers who'd been treated like walking wallets by the very people they loved. We shared documents, strategies, and quiet words of encouragement. We reminded each other that love doesn't mean surrendering your dignity. The hardest truth, as Margaret once said, is accepting that someone you love can see you only as a source of money. But the most powerful truth, as Ruth added, is realizing you never have to accept it. Cedric jumped from the swing and ran to me, breathless and smiling. I hugged him tight, the simple warmth of his arms around my neck worth more than any settlement. This is what I fought for, not just the right to see my grandson, but the right to live on my own terms, with clear boundaries and a full heart. If you've stayed with me through this story, thank you. Maybe you face something similar, or maybe you know someone who has. What would you do in my place? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear how far this story reaches. And if you're ready for more true stories of resilience and unexpected twists, stay tuned. 2 of our channel favorites are coming up next.